Hello fellow investors. Today I'm going to show you how you can do your own stock analysis using some simple Excel tricks. You don't need any complex calculation or support of some financial experts. This is something you can do it yourself if you have access to Microsoft Excel. So let's start. As you see on the screen, I currently have an Excel open. Now in this Excel, I just created one sheet called stock analysis, and you will see I have some column names pre-filled. Just for the sake of this video, I have them handy. Now let's see how you can calculate or directly pull from web some of the intrinsic numbers for any stock which are listed on, let's say, US stock exchange. Let's start with an example of one of our favorite brands, Apple. What you have to do here is, in the name column, write Apple. Simple. After this, select on this cell. Go to this tab here called Data. You will see a stocks icon here. Click on it. What Excel is doing now is trying to find the nearest match of this word Apple with the actual stock listed on the exchange. So here we see a few options of stock listing on different exchanges. Let's go with the US listing of NASDAQ. I select this. So now in this cell, the Excel already identifies that this data field is related to Apple stock. In the next column, just to keep it simple, you want to know the name with which we know this particular company. You select this and then you do a dot and you will start seeing multiple options here. And we can pick whatever columns we need here. So in this case, I'm going to pick name. You press enter and now you get the stock name. Next is industry. So you again press an equal, select on this cell and select industry here. It is here. Now you get the name of the industry with which Apple is listed. Year founded. I usually find this field useful. Not necessarily for Apple, but in general, I will show you that I'm going to do the same thing in a scalable manner across almost all the stocks listed on US exchange. So in those cases, it is particularly useful to identify which stocks have been there in the market for some time. Market capitalization. This is one of the very important parameters which tells us how big is the company. So here, let's see a market cap, and then I'm going to, so the way this formula returns the value is in absolute numbers, but we want to see it in billions. So I'm going to divide it by a billion. And here you see 2,241. In trillions, it is $2.2 trillion. PE ratio, another important parameter to assess at what price the company is currently trading compared to its intrinsics. The measure of one of those intrinsics is earnings per share. So you again select this and do PE ratio. 52-week high. $52-week low, current price, then you can do some further analysis on this data. So for example, if you want to see how far off the current price is compared to 52 weeks high of Apple, so you simply do this formula. And we will convert this into a percentage. So what this tells me is that Apple is currently trading at 8% discount versus its 52-week high. And you might also want to see how up a given stock is versus the low it had in the last 52 weeks or 1 year. So we use a similar formula, but this time on column H. So that's impressive. You see here, right? Apple has gained close to 88% across its low over the last 1 year. So this is one example. Now, for the purpose of this video, what I have here in the other sheet is already a list of all the companies. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. Now the simple part. I'm going to copy this formula. You select this, do a Control C. You go to the bottom of this list, do a Control V, Control C again, go all the way up to the top, Control V. Now you see the magic. Across all these 3000 plus stocks, you now have all these values populated directly. Now you can play around with this in whatever way you want. So for example, I will put a filter here and I want to see which are those companies with low PE ratios so that I can identify my potential investments for companies with this low ratio. So I'm going to sort them from smallest to largest. What you will see here is that many of these companies have a PE ratio of 0. So this is usually the case when the PE ratio is not properly calculated. So here I am going to do, let's say, a PE ratio of more than 1. So you see here there are like some of these companies which have very low PE ratios. One thing to know about PE ratios is that you should always see this in the context of the industry. So for example, if you are looking at the PE ratio of a pharma company, it is not ideal to compare it with the PE ratio of, let's say, an airline company, because usually the airline companies have low PE ratios. So this is one way to look at the value which is offered by different stocks. And you can do multiple filters here. So for example, if you just want to see the companies which have more than $10 billion of market capitalization, so again you go here in the column of market capitalization, you select market cap is more than 10, and now you see here all these companies which are pretty large, more than $10 billion is a decent enough sized company. And now you are seeing them in the sorted order of low to high PE ratios. You can do the same exercise across other parameters here as well. So for example, one thing I personally like to see is how far off a company is compared to its lows over the last 1 year. So you remove all the filters here, you add a new filter, and then you sort this from smallest to largest. So now what you see here is all these companies are very close to their 1 year lows. And again, this could be a way to look at the value investment stocks. Just one thing I would like to point out here is for any stock, you should always look at multiple indicators. So I'm not saying that you just go by PE ratio or just go by this gap from low. These are some of the indicators which point you in the right direction. Ultimately, there'll be a lot more fields you have to consider to identify which is your right value investment. Thank you for watching this video.